Right. While I'm waiting for anyone else to join, I'm just gonna was hoping to dive into a quick issue. Let me see if I can find it. Um, so with our contributor platform at the moment, if you try and issue a reward to a user that doesn't actually exist in the platform, it just kind of silently fails. So what I'd like to do is try and fetch that user from GitLab if they exist. So I'm just starting by, we've got REST service, which uses the REST API. So I've just added this get user by username method. Um, just going to write a quick spec for that. So let's see if I managed to do that right or not. Is token is returning an error because it's not a real API token. I'm going to pause the share for a moment in case it is a real API token, but it shouldn't be. No, it's not. So I'm just going to try. Should need to authenticate. Yeah, we are getting a 200 response. Looks like all the information is there, so I suspect it's just because he is a string and not a symbol, so keep our fingers crossed. Still not happy. Oh, string into an int, so the other way around, yes. Let me see. Hey, Jim.
Hello, how are you today?
Yeah, great, thanks. Although not firing on all cylinders, apparently. Um, it's a really stupid error I'm getting about trying to convert a string to an int, and I don't really know what I'm. Oh, of course, of course. Okay. We actually return an array because we're doing a search. So I just need to take the first of the array. Body, then return if it doesn't find it, but let's do that. Anything exciting on your radar at the moment, Jim? Or
Just prepping for conferences, and uh, I have one MR that I'm trying to get through, and I have no idea why it's failing. It fails for no apparent reason. I think it's just a flaky test.
Oh man. Should we have a quick look at it or?
Yeah, let me find it.
Oh,
Hey,
oh,
yeah, so I'll just be here observing, trying to understand how this contribution to GitLab works.
yeah, no problem. So it's not hugely structured. I'm working on something, so I was hacking away at it in the background. But anyone that joins got questions, then great. This is the GitLab contributor platform that I'm coding on at the moment. But the good thing is it uses Rails and Vue, so the same as the GitLab monolith. RSpec, yeah, I've tried to follow as many of the practices as possible to make it as similar. Jim, I've got to remember to call you a notable contributor now rather than an MVP. And I don't know if you want to share anything more about like the areas that you like diving into, Jim.
I dive into the most random, weird places that you can find. Typically, I go down rabbit holes and typically pull lead down because I have no idea what I'm doing half the time.
You like
But
to,
learn,
yeah, that's definitely the interesting ones that everyone else has been shied away from in the past, right?
yep. So just trying to close as many issues as I can and learn as much as I can. I have learned so much uh, just contributing. So
Awesome, awesome. I don't know if you've found similar because this is kind of how I started actually, Jim. And one of the things that I found really helpful and interesting is I took quite a lot back to my company as well. Like, you know, when I learned things about, I don't know, say the MR process or whatever it might be, code review and various other bits and pieces. I was like, oh, I quite like that trick. I'm gonna gonna take that back.
yeah,
Right.
so I try to I see how companies do it. I try to implement things and see how our company can benefit.
Awesome.
So,
Um, Generally
for this,
speaking, looking at this one, like CNG tests do tend to be flaky when, like, I don't know that I've ever seen one of these tests fail and it be like, oh, this is because of a change I've made in my MR.
yes. So
It
how
may
else I
be, but it's
confirm?
unlikely. Go
So
on.
how else I confirm this is I took a look at this particular MR. All I did was change dot 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 to a single character. I don't see those being affected whatsoever in the that, so I think it's just a flaky test.
Absolutely, yeah.
What's
So go
concerning
on.
though is if you take a look at the not the job log, what's the multiple runs? This one
Yeah,
is it failed on the same test multiple times.
interesting. Okay.
So maybe
Um,
just luck of the draw.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I'll have a quick look at the actual test itself. Like, although all you've changed is a bit of text, if part of the test is looking for a button with certain text or something along those lines, it's possible that it could be related. I find it very unlikely, but it's not beyond the realms of possibility. So let's just have a quick look at that. Yeah, the GitLab project. Okay. So I can't see. That's interesting. Like looking, really glancing at it quick, it definitely doesn't look like that. It doesn't look like it's looking for a button or anything like that. So I suspect it's just flaky. There's one other thing. So exposes variables. Yeah, I think that's just flaky. Well, if it fails again on the same one, so just kicked off anew because it looks like that was a week ago that pipeline ran.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have a bad habit of forgetting to keep following up with whoever the lucky people are.
It's definitely not on you that. Like it's something that I definitely do as well. Like because you don't really get a notification. I mean, sometimes you do get the foul pipeline notification, but once you kind of kick off or a merge has been kicked off, you think, great, that's done. It's been approved. It's someone's pressed the merge button, and then yeah, it's a bit later that you randomly are looking at these and you're like, hang on a minute, why have I got 12 open MRs? And you see that one's in this kind of weird state.
Yep. And then I have one more potential issue for us to take a look
So I
at
might as
too.
well kill that pipeline because that's definitely gonna. It's not helpful. It can't be merged now. There's a conflict, which is annoying. So you'll need
when
to
did they get a merge
Go on.
conflict? When did they get a conflict?
Good question. I don't know. If I so it's not even letting me try and resolve it in the UI, so I can't really see. Might show me in here which file it is that's got conflict. Yeah, so
If I were to bet, it's going to be the pot file.
I mean, that could be as well, but this is the main one it's saying about this terminal. So what I could do is look back in GitLab. Oh, weirdly, I can't even find that file anymore. So I have a feeling that that file might have been deleted. So it might be all you need to do is delete this file in your branch and push that change. But let's see if there's a conflict in the pot file as well. And let me also double check that what I just told you is correct. But that file has been deleted. Yeah, the pot file as well. So you will need to regenerate the translations anyway. Oh, and terminal spec, right? So if the terminal file's been deleted, the spec will have been as well. So you've got two files to delete, then regenerate that translation file, push it up, give me a prod. I'll run the pipeline again, and we should be good to go.
Okay.
And then something else fun?
Yeah, I got one that I hope is an easy fix.
Yeah.
You'll love the age of this one.
Anything over 5 years is fun. Whoa! Love that. Yeah. So what have we got? Temp fix rescue in Node.rb.
And yes, it still exists.
Nice. Rescue is really, really slow. So we should probably go for that. Okay. Is that the Node model?
I'm trying to remember. Sorry, it's early today for me.
There, yeah, here it is. We're just looking for a longer term solution. So, is there any discussion about? We're saying we should get rid of it, but what should we do instead? If the no commit ID does not.
The one I did not understand is how it's getting that for commit.
For commit is if the notable type is commit.
Because if it is the commit, right, it should exist.
Yeah, I mean, in my eyes, there's a couple of things I'd say here. So, number one is that it shouldn't happen, and if it does, it should be very rare. So I almost don't care too much about the performance here. But yeah, if it is, I'd love to know why. Another thing is like, if we remove this, how many, do you know what I mean? Raise an MR just to remove this and see how many tests, if any, fail.
Okay.
That's always an interesting approach. Because when we say that app crashes, it's like, well,
it's been 9 years. What other things in Ruby have changed?
Well, it's not that, but like obviously it won't cause like Puma or Rails or whatever you want to call it to fall over. It's going to cause the whatever the current thing is that's happening to either bubble up if there's a higher rescue somewhere, or terminate if it doesn't. But I'd rather know where and when this is happening and it cause an error, so we can then fix it or handle it, than just have this kind of silent failure.
Okay.
But yeah, my first thing, although again, like just because a test fails, that might be because there's a test specifically for this bit of code, this bit of logic that creates a note with a dummy, a commit ID that doesn't match, or SHA or whatever it is to cause it to break. But yeah, I don't know.
Because the only way that I can think of that this would actually happen is if you do like a forced push or something, right?
Yeah, and even that, I don't pretend to know, like, just because you've done a forced push, I think the database still knows, or I don't know if commits come from the database or if they come from Gitterly. But I don't think we just ever destroy all prior knowledge and evidence. I think like there's still some history of those things. Maybe even what a nicer tweak might be to do is we're saying that if the note doesn't exist, well, can we not do like, I don't know how commit works, but can we not patch the specific what happens when a commit doesn't exist? So in fact, here it looks like So that's checking if commit ID is present, but not necessary. So yeah, project that I don't know what that. Let me not know. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. So one thing we can do. What's my easiest way to trigger this? Just add a like new line or something at the end. Trigger it. Yeah. So now we've got this on here. Then you could add some labels. Oh, now I'm really confused. GitLab bot added these labels 5 years ago and then removed them again. But if you label this issue, then we'll know who the PM or EM are, and we can loop them into the conversation. Because I'm just making it up as I go along. But yeah, I'd love to know if that's expected. Maybe we could even log something somewhere when we hit that rescue, and then we could have a look on like GitLab.com, like how many times have we hit that rescue in the last day, week, month. So there's a couple of different approaches, but it is amusing to say the least. 9 years down the line, we've still got this.
Who would be the PM for this? Would it be the Gitly people?
So I wouldn't have thought so. So this is saying group code review. I was thinking group source code rather than code review, but that could be right. They, I guess, might need to work because, again, I don't know. Project.commit, does that come from the database or does that come from Gitterly? I imagine it is from Gitterly, but I think still ultimately it's owned by either the source code group or the code review group, is what the AI is suggesting. Both of them are the same PM. I think the EM might be different, but I'll let you decide on which one to go for. But yeah, so if you label that and then ping probably the EM because it's more about the code than the product, and then yeah, just sort of say like, what do you think is the way forward? But they've definitely got a few thoughts. What one, as I say, would be just removing that catch or rescue and seeing if anything breaks. Another would be logging somewhere when we hit that, so that we can make a sort of data-driven decision. And then the other thing, yeah, would be for someone to actually be able to share their expectations on whether it should be possible to hit that. That will get us a bit of context to start moving forward.
What would the logging one look like? I'm not familiar with how GitLab logs.
Good question. Good question. So I guess let's just see if we've got Rails.log. So I'm surprised we've only got one reference. I'm guessing we've got a GitLab logger of some sort, so we're probably not using Rails logger. Yes, we've got a GitLab app logger error. So again, probably need to refer to our docs and speak to an engineer who's actually used it. But I would guess we can do something like this, where we put a a sort of specific message in there, and then we can just search. Annoyingly, it would be team members only that could search those production logs. But yeah, once we start actually recording or an error, then it'll be in our logs for us to pull data on.
Okay.
There's a few different ideas from my end, and hopefully, if you loop in the right engineering team, then I'll maybe have some more informed suggestions.
Okay. I will tag the source code people on there just because that's what the bot's saying.
Awesome.
And you said it's the same people anyway, so it doesn't.
So the PM is, because funnily enough, I've looked that up recently. I'm imagine the
That would
EM
be
might be different.
That'd be Kai.
Correct. So yeah, Kai is the project backend is Andre for source code. Francois. So they are different. But again, I suggested something, roll with it. And if you ping Francois and he sort of says, oh, you're better off. Oh, that's interesting. Andre, who is the backend EM for source code, is the front end EM for code review. I think that's probably accurate though. Full stack engineer, it's all good. So yeah, maybe even you want to loop both Andre and Francois in. I hope I'm pronouncing the names wrong. Right, sorry. Yeah. And then yeah, we'll get some direction there.
Right.
Awesome. So I think you kind of caught me roughly explaining what I was trying to hack when you joined, Jim. So on the contributor platform, it's quite a long running issue actually, but it just doesn't really happen that often. So yeah, when we're issuing rewards, if the user doesn't exist, then it just kind of silently issues the rewards to all the users that do exist and doesn't explain that one or more didn't. So yeah, it doesn't happen that often, so it's not a big drama, but it's reared its head again. So we've got a scenario where we're issuing some rewards to some contributors that aren't necessarily code contributors, aren't necessarily in the contributor platform. So yeah, we want to try and tackle it. So I'm just trying to write a little bit of code. So I've done a service method to basically grab the user ID from the GitLab API because we need the user ID to be able to create the user in the contributor platform database. And then, yeah, hopefully, and then create the user. So let's need to figure out what happens when they don't exist in GitHub as well. Make sure we handle that scenario.
That was my next question. Can we ensure that they all actually exist in GitLab?
Let's write another test here. See what happens. GitLab. At the moment, I expect that it will raise an exception for an error. So Yeah, so what do we want it to do? It's the first question. Do we want it to raise an error? Or do we want it to? I think I'd say return nil or null.
Return null, and then you just throw an error on the front end.
Well, yeah, again, that I think will be a little bit further down the. So I'm going to step towards the ultimate experience where everything is beautiful, but for now, just one more step in the right direction where because the theory is at the moment it's like, well, they need to have a user. That's how we're issuing the rewards in the first place. The first scenario, we were assuming all of the users exist. Now we're going to be like, okay, let's assume they all exist in GitLab, but not assume that they all exist in the contributor platform. And then the final iteration will be going that step further still.
Okay.
So what do we want? Yeah, what do we want it to do? Yeah, I think there. Oh wow. It actually does do that already. That's amazing. Almost like I made it do that. So REST service. So yeah, cool. Okay. So I guess it returns an empty array, and first on an empty array returns nil. So perfect. Love it. So now in our thing, so we try and find them locally. If I should check the API. Check that it's case insensitive because that would really suck if it was case. No, good. Yeah, perfect. So we create the user, so user is that, and then we do. Should I raise? This interesting. Do you?
So when you create the user, random thought, when you create the user, you're using the username as defined by GitLab, right?
Yes.
They can change their user ID, can't they?
Can't change their ID. They can change their username. So the primary
Okay, so you're
key in
using
both.
it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
User ID. Okay.
So I think this is going to fail, but I think you have to define like that. Imagine that this record not found, so we have to create our own class which extends standard error. I can never quite remember how. So when it doesn't exist. It doesn't raise an error, but logs an error. So what we want, yeah, it does not raise an error, then we want yeah. So we've got to get that. That without any. Raise user, and then in this one, so that's what I expected. Yeah, cool. So I think we have to do to the rescue. Yeah, simple as that. Yeah. Uh, two. Okay. All in. Good. We're down to 1 hour. So validation username can't be blank. Ah, of course. That was my own fault because wow.
I like when that just happens. You find one thing, it fixes everything.
Yeah, you know what? So I definitely like that approach where there was lots of errors, and then I kept refining and refining and refining till it was green. Always worries me when it's green, like from the beginning. You know,
So
it's too suspicious.
you're not running an LSP or anything on this, or not LSP. The things that go and actually like try and find some of those issues, right?
No, and you know what? I tried at some like I have actually got Solargraph. I think that's what you're referring to anyway. Solargraph, I think it's called, the setup on or setup installed the gem. But yeah, I've never really like these things seem to, I don't know, like not work basically. But I probably should at some point, especially as this project, it all runs within a dev container, so it's all like, I don't know what you call it, quite nicely isolated, um, so that essentially you don't have to worry about, oh, like I need to install all these dependencies and I need this, this and this, because it's like, well, the dependencies are all within the container, the dev container, so they
Well,
just
the
work.
thing I'm thinking of runs all inside of your VS Code, and it just shows, hey, this is expecting like the constructor issue you just had a minute ago. It would highlight it in red or something.
Yeah, but it still requires like
Okay.
stuff, if that makes sense. But that should be fine because we are running a container with that stuff inside. But yeah, I don't quite know. Like, let's try Solar or Sonar. Solar, right? Yeah. So if I try installing this. I would sort of now expect to have like find all occurrence. Oh, I've got go to definition. I don't know if that was there before. And it has worked, but yeah, like maybe if I disable the extension, so try again. Yeah, it still works. So I don't really, I will have to do some digging. We'll have to do some digging. Okay, so um, that should do it. Now I'm just going to check the user guide, see if there's anything about. Okay, so it doesn't actually state in there at the moment, so I'm not gonna add more confusion. So I quite like to do is just, yeah, have a look everything that I'm about to push. So we've created a new record not found error. We're not throwing an exception when we can't find it in the database anymore. Instead, we just make user ID null or nil. If it is null or nil, it will try and create the username. That will go and try and get the user from GitLab using the REST API. That doesn't work. It will raise our custom error, which will still log. It does find it. It will create the user now. Do I need anything more than that to create the user? I think that's sufficient. And then that user will get updated by the system in the later stage. So my theory now to actually test the UI will be if I find a user going to struggle. Okay, so let me try it with the actual user that we're trying to reward right now. Okay, so that's a user not found. But then if we try and look that user up in GitLab, that does exist. So if I try and import, it doesn't recognize me as an admin at the moment. Doesn't, so I'm going to hack it. True. Right. Yeah. Of course, that's not going to work. So it's pointing at my local GitLab. I need to use
you don't have a GitLab org.
Yeah, so basically, yeah, the development environment's basically pointing my contributor platform development environment is pointing at my GitLab development environment, which kind of makes sense, right?
Now, this would be one question for you. If you're automatically creating the user account for them, which you are, right? That's what
So
this change.
it's a user record in the contributor platform. So it's not
That
an
doesn't
account as
violate,
such.
so it won't violate GDPR or whatever it is, right?
No, so we're importing all of the users with any activity into the platform automatically.
Okay.
But we're not creating user accounts for them. That it's just a user record, if that makes sense. Yes, and we're not pulling any non-public. All of this information comes out of the API when unauthenticated. It's only stuff that you choose to share publicly.
Okay, so because it's all public information, it doesn't matter.
Exactly. Let's see. Again, I should try. So it's an error being thrown. Okay. Okay. The token needs to be set. It's a real pain to. I think I'm going to have to rely on my RSpec in this scenario. Trying to do this in the UI is painful. So let's revert my users controller. Put that in production. So what do we have? We got our new class. Yeah. We got our new create user method. Get user method. Shuffle those private methods to there, so that shouldn't cause anything to explode, hopefully. And that relates to an issue which I should be closed. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Yeah, that's all right to me. Take a while for the specs to run, and then fingers crossed. I'll give it a. What better way to test it than in production, right? um,
I think the saying is all of us are lucky to have a development environment. Some of us are lucky to have a production.
I like that. I like that. Something about shipping it. Maybe I'll wait till Friday to ship it. That's the best, right?
Okay.
Anyways, have a great day. Nice to see you as always, Jim.